Welcome to Ready, Set, Hunt. Whether you're an aspiring, new, or seasoned hunter, join us as we share our experiences and learn from other hunters around the country. Hey guys, welcome back to Ready, Set, Hunt. This is episode 9, and boy, Chris, I have been so excited for this topic because it's just so fun. It's one of our favorite topics to talk about, I would say. I feel like almost anytime you give me a phone call, we end up talking about gear or something related to gear in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, there's that meme out there where it's from what's the cop show? It's like a comedy, and the sergeant, black guy, just passed away. I think Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Is that what it is?
Yeah,
It's the clip of him going, "Oh no, oh no." You know what I'm talking about? But
I think so.
the the context is how much money did you spend, or how much money does your wife believe you? Like your wife's like, "How much money did you spend?" Like $200. And it's like, oh no. So like from a gear perspective, um, I'll just say this. We have arrived at the place where we really don't have a need. And I
It's
don't
true.
think ever could have a need ever again. But that's not to say we won't buy additional gear items. But that initial breakthrough, that wall that you have when you're first starting out, and then a comfortability sets in when you like spread your gear out. You're going to do, your gear drop before a hunt, and you're looking at everything. You're like, well, I feel pretty good. Because now that we're out there, and I'll just end on this thought. Now that we're out there, we're talking about minusing, like subtracting items. Like, I really don't need this, or I haven't used this yet. And I think the most recent addition is just tourniquets, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess we haven't really added too much to our kit. I mean, I still tinker with my gear and will be like, well, this has worked, but I'd like to try something different. Really kind of for the sake of trying something different, not even necessarily because I have to. Um, but yeah, I guess we don't really have any major needs, but I think it's easy to say our gear has certainly transformed over the years.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at the kind of gear you were using when you first started hunting, like first started like getting into hunting on a regular basis versus what we use now and maybe like the kind of focus we have on our gear now. I think we should explore that today, especially for guys that are just getting into hunting or are fairly new to hunting in like, man, like what kind of gear if you were to do it all over again, like what kind of gear would you focus on? And would you start off with like maybe cheaper gear, maybe stuff that doesn't break the bank so much, or would you just go all in? Kind of because we're kind of coming from a perspective like if you're kind of new to hunting and you're still figuring out if it's even something you really want to jump into, you probably don't want to drop. I'm just gonna be honest, thousands of dollars on hunting gear.
Yeah, I think if we go back and, there's probably some categories. Like, the question probably comes to mind, what do I even need, to start hunting? Well, first and foremost, you need your tool. That's pretty much the only thing you need besides your license. So whether that's a bow or your firearm or your spear, whatever you're whatever you're getting into, that's truly all you need. You could go out there in some green clothes and some jeans and a pair of tennies, you could rock that, and it's to each their own, I guess. Um, Overall, though, when we started out, I think it was our tool, which was, if we go back to just tree stand hunting, is a shotgun, and then you had your blaze orange that you threw over some, long john underwear, your jeans, or whatever you had on underneath. But that was really it. And then you might have bought, when I was a kid, you might have bought an upgraded pair of boots to keep your toes warm because you weren't moving around a whole lot at all in this when you're stand hunting. Besides that, I think we went, for me and my family, or the family that I was around that who hunted, we might have only switched ammo from time, like slugs, like, oh, this works really well, or this is crap, it just doesn't shoot anything, or somebody might have got a new rifle, or a new shotgun, right? Because we are in a slug
Mhm.
zone, so there weren't any rifles. That was really the extent. If somebody got new Blaze Orange, you're like, oh, that's so cool. It's got the Realtree camo pattern, and it's like,
Apparently you held out on the new Blaze Orange because I remember it was probably like 2 seasons ago. I think it was a Minnesota firearm deer opener, and you pulled out this little orange vest that you put on over your camo, and it was so faded that there's no way it could even classify as blaze orange
it was
anymore.
bad.
I think I gave you crap for it. I'm like, dude, I think if you got pulled over by a warden, you might get fined
Well, I don't know.
because that's not
I
blaze
don't
orange anymore.
know if you'd get fined because it was issued, as the correct Blaze Orange. But hey, I got my use out of it, and
Yeah. You only wore it for 30 years, it appears.
it was. I don't even know if no. I think that's some of the camo that was in the bottom. Like when we sold the farm, we had the bins of orange, Blaze Orange, and
I
like
do
nobody
remember
was
that.
taking
Yeah.
them, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna go through all this, and
Some
there was like a
history in those bins, man.
there was a hockey bag that had sat in there with some orange in it, and the mice had gotten into it. It was terrible. It was terrible. It was all chewed up, and there was dead mice,
Mhm.
like skeletons in there because they couldn't get out. It was super decayed, but I salvaged probably like 50% of it, and we're talking a lot of Blaze Orange. So I got a couple totes in my
Dude,
garage.
blaze orange coveralls,
I
like
got it all, man.
head to toe blaze orange. That just makes me laugh so hard. That's just the quintessential Midwest deer hunting to me in my mind.
There's
Just
something spiritual about putting those on and going out in the woods. And it's not even all mine. I for sure am a curator of history. I love keeping historical things. So I'm keepsaking, keeping all the keepsake orange for everybody when I believe they'll like return to the hunting, crew. But it probably never will happen because everyone's aged out, and it's the tradition is now mine with you and a few others. But okay,
yeah.
I want to regather. I want to go back and ask you. So we have like the tool, right? That's your base. You just need something to put the animal down with. Besides that, would you say just your outers? Because everybody has sweats and some warm layers they can throw on underneath that aren't perfect, right? The way that your body perspirates, or they might collect like cotton and different things material wise. A good pair of boots, and then maybe you're starting to talk about um, accessories, and that for me that
Mhm.
would be like bino, like things you don't absolutely have to have, but they come in handy and improve your chances of, even if it's like less than 1%, it helps the hunt. So like
Yeah.
uh you know deer calls, your binos, stuff like that. So just talk to me a little bit about that.
I think it's really kind of fun to point out how far hunting gear in general has come even since I first started hunting. I mean, maybe it's just because I'm more plugged into it now and I see all the different brands and the ads and social media and everything. But I remember like just I don't know, there was something about hunting gear that
There was a
like
switch that
inherently
turned
felt
on hunting culturally, right? It was almost like
kind of
after Under Armour came out. And Under Armour got into
maybe.
the hunting game a little bit, but I'm saying
Hmm.
when there never used to be like all these, well, let's say cool brands.
Yeah, it was like, oh, are you a Realtree or a Mossy Oak guy? You know,
No, I got
and
this at
now
Fleet Farm.
yeah, well, exactly. And well, the Fleet Farm sold that stuff, but now it's like, so what are you wearing? Are you wearing First Light or Sitka or Kuiu or Kings, or are you like a Stone Glacier guy? Or it's just like there's all these like major brands that are so trendy, and there's like such a following with them. I don't remember that being as much of a thing when I first started hunting, and that my hunting career isn't super long. It's been about 10, 11 years now. But it's just crazy to think how much things have changed. Even just something as simple as a pair of binoculars. Like I couldn't have told you a single thing about binoculars when I first started out. I'd be like, yeah, it magnifies things and helps me see things a little further. But I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you the difference between a pair of 10 by 42s and a pair of 10 by 50s or whatever, or glass quality, anything like that. Rather, I think kind of what I want to talk about is getting into what's important and what's not important, what's a must have and what's nice to have. And I think we've touched on it. You have your tool, and then there's your clothing. And really, depending on what you're willing to spend, you can spend as much or as little on your clothing as possible. Obviously, knowing that typically the more you spend on your clothing, the more comfortable in the field you're going to be, like in general, but that's not always the case. Um, I was actually just thinking about it when I was driving in the car today. I was thinking about this topic and this podcast, thinking about gear that I first started using compared to what I have now. Also, what I was willing to spend back then. I remember
Oh
going.
my gosh.
I needed some camo, right? And so I was like, well, I'm gonna go to where does one go to get camo? Let's go to Cabela's because it's like the biggest at the time. Is just like the biggest name. So go to Cabela's, and I'm like, well, I'm looking at some of these jackets. They're like, you know, $120. I'm just like scoffing. I'm like, oh, it's so expensive. And then I'm like, well, maybe I don't need a jacket. Maybe I just need like a camo hoodie and it says Cabela's on it, right? So I look at the hoodies, and it's $40, and I'm like, I'm having a hard time getting myself to spend $40 on a camo sweatshirt, mainly because I'm thinking, A, it's camo, so I'm not gonna wear it all the time. And B, like $40, like at the time, $40 is a lot. Now, flash forward, I mean, $40, what does $40 get you now in like any of the premium hunting lines? Like maybe a hat, or maybe maybe like a base layer shirt, if that.
When we first started, like when I first started out, and I'm doing the Fleet Farm thing. If guys went to Cabela's, that was always a little bit more spendy, right? Cabela's just in general, if you know what that is. Um, Bass.
Their prices do seem to be a little higher than if you were to get the same thing somewhere else, but
I walk in there and it's kind of overwhelming. It's like so much clothes, right? But you're exactly right. When I first started out, especially Western planning, like gear wise, it's like,
mm-hmm.
oh, this is going to cost me something. So we like dropping $250, which is a good amount of money, right?
Yeah,
It's a quarter
for
of a
sure.
grand. Uh,
It sounds like so much more when you say it that way. I don't know why.
well, you can either roll with what you have, and you're kind of in a place of not being. I'll just say for me, I wasn't satisfied with, and I didn't have camel gear, right? I'm Minnesota blaze orange, not trying to blend in. I didn't do too much turkey hunting before we started hanging out. So blending in wasn't a thing. It was just like if you're bird hunting, I guess I did some duck hunting, but that again was like throwing a hoodie over or something of that nature. But getting into Western hunting, I was like, what do I need? Well, we need base layers. We talked a lot about that. Like, how do you regulate your body heat? A good base layer for the right temperature goes a very long way, and you'll appreciate it in the end. Secondly, how do you insulate well, depending on the temperature? Like, if it's warm out, your base layer is probably going to be sufficient, but those mornings and evenings, the temperatures do shift, especially in the fall, spring. You're not keeping those consistent temperatures, and then your outers, and you can get away with like throwing a poncho in there or something like that. But overall, I think those three layers are like pant wise, you might be able to do just one and wear like long johns underneath like that. But the top is how you like your body really regulates, and then your head. Like I don't have any hair anymore. I shave my head, so I need a hat most of the time to stay warm, and then a hood comes in very handy. But after that, right? So you get your initial breakthrough or your break in of your wardrobe for being out in different climates, especially out west. If you're talking mountains though, now you're talking like maybe two more different type of layers.
Yeah, because you're having to think about different elements. I mean, and the elements play a role pretty much anywhere you hunt, but mountains, it's just like it's so much more unpredictable. Like I'm even thinking about my upcoming spring bear hunt, and it's like it could be 70 degrees one day and the next day it could be 25 degrees and blizzard, or it could be somewhere in between there and pouring rain, and you just have to be prepared for all three situations. And so it's like you can't just roll out there with pants and a sweatshirt and call it good. Just doesn't work. You have to think about a not only comfort but like survival, like legitimately if you're
Hmm.
miles and miles away from the truck off a trailhead or something. But yeah, I mean, Western hunting is kind of a different game and obviously just requires so much more gear,
And when we say
which is I think
Western hunting, we are not talking about like sitting in your truck and driving down roads, getting in and out. We're in our mind when we're describing this, we're talking about a pack on our back with
mhm,
everything in it, and we're going 5 miles in, give or take, or so we're the elements are can be very pleasant and they can also be terrible.
yeah. Um, but if you are from the Midwest or out east and you're planning on stand hunting, you probably can get away with a lot less gear
100%.
um, to to be successful. And at no point in like early on in your hunting journey, or even maybe at all ever in your hunting journey, should gear be the forefront of everything. Gear helps success, but it does not bring success. The only thing that brings success is you and the work that you put in. And so um it it's super fun and enjoyable to talk about gear, and we just like to nerd out about it because it's just kind of part of our passion, but it is not the be all end all. um it may I think good gear will help you perform better, and I think good gear will keep you out in the field longer, so that will help your success, but it is not the cause of success. And I think that's really important to take away from this conversation too, before we get too deep into the gear conversation here.
Yeah,
um,
like when you're starting out too, adding a piece here and there is how you really understand the application of it and like to yourself. Oh, I really like this piece, and your buddy may hate it. Like based on how he runs temperature wise. Like Peter, you run really warm. I
mhm,
run really cool. So we may be in the same climate, but I've got an extra layer on, or I might be wearing actually my outer like jacket layer to break the wind when you're like totally fine. So you got to know yourself. It is geared towards yourself. And then as you go through hunting seasons, you reflect back on, I did not like this about sitting in the stand, or I didn't like this about my feet got soaked. Oh, I definitely
mhm,
need a different type of boot setup with maybe gaiters. Gaiters are things that strap over your pant, and boot where they join together down there where your laces are. Super awesome, especially if you're keeping moisture off. But if it gets hot, then too, your feet will start sweating. So you just got to know the applications of the gear you're putting in there and reflecting yourself on like what kind of hunting are you doing, what's the purpose of it. You just don't need to go out and spend a bunch of money and fill a tote up and then kind of pick
yep,
and choose. That's not going to be helpful.
yep. I think there's something to be said about kind of starting out with cheaper gear, because if you were getting into hunting and you just jumped right immediately into the more expensive technical hunting gear, like any of the big brand names I mentioned earlier, I don't know that you would come to necessarily appreciate them the same as if you started with cheap or cheaper, less quality gear, because wouldn't necessarily know the difference. You know what I mean? And so I'm pretty thankful that I started with cheaper stuff, because then I quickly realized what did work and what didn't work, and like whether like there has to be something better than this. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I know that when I first started getting some of my more premium hunting clothing items, for example, it was like night and day difference.
100%.
And it's really hard to explain that, because I think I kind of got into the more premium hunting clothing stuff a little bit before you did. And I remember telling you like, dude, I'm not kidding. It is like a night and day difference. And I know you were a little bit skeptical, and
Well, that we're talking
maybe also
cost.
more so afraid of the cost.
Not afraid. It's just it's an investment, right? And
It is,
overall,
yeah.
like I I had utilized some other brands. I had ordered, remember, tops and bottoms, and they were sufficient. They were practical. They worked functionality wise. They were very similar, but also brands. Once you start exploring the different brand options from the same functionality stance of a certain layer. So let's say an outer shell, and you're looking at
Hmm.
5 different brands. They will fit different. They will feel different. They will uh, breathe maybe a little bit different. The weight can be
Yeah.
similar, different color combinations, and you'll just kind of become your maturing version of yourself as a hunter.
Hmm.
And I know that some of those brands that I had previously to what I run now, and again, I don't think I'm going to say anything as far as which brands I run. You can figure it out maybe as we talk, but
I don't know. We're not sponsored by anyone. We could say what brands we use.
I know, but
We're
I'm
talking about gear, so it's like let's just throw them out there.
well, yeah, I didn't like a few brands. Long story short, I sent those down the road, and you did get into to premium. We'll just use that word, premium brands, before I did, and it was a night and day difference. It was a definite appreciation to you if I've never said that. And I'm all in. I'm pretty loyal when it comes to brand stuff. I'm not like anti any other. I just know what I like.
Hmm.
I know what actions I like on a rifle.
Yeah.
In the amount of exposure I've had to actions, give or take, or the
Yeah.
boots, and you got me into like the boots I run. I would have never run those boots if you hadn't, shown me. And I'm like, oh, this is good. And you run different boots now than that, but
Hmm.
I still like these, like what I'm running. So
Yeah. I'm not, well, as you know, as of late, I'm not brand loyal.
I've given you
I
crap
have
for betraying the brand.
not even betraying because I still wear a lot of it,
I
but
know.
um, I I just like quality gear, and if the gear that I've been
That's a
using
silly
is not,
statement, Peter. You should say I like crappy gear. Like,
I like crappy gear.
no, I
Um,
get it. Keep going. Sorry.
but if I'm using something and I feel like there's something out there that might be better, like I'm gonna try it. And I've done that recently, and or even just trying or tinkering with different things, kind of like I said. Um, but there is no right or wrong answer. I think different, like kind of like you said, different brands are going to work well for different people. They fit different, or maybe you have a camo preference. Maybe you like brand A's camo better than brand B. It really doesn't matter at the end of the day. They're all kind of doing similar things. Um, they're even targeting this, similar demographics and similar audience end users and everything. Um, but as long as it fits you and you enjoy it and it works well for you, then that's great. It doesn't matter what Chris or I use or any other influencer that you or hunting influencer you follow. It doesn't matter what they use. What matters is that it works and it makes your hunting experience better.
Yeah,
Um,
I wouldn't say like I don't know if this is the right terminology, but be closed minded. I wouldn't say that, but it's okay to say, no, I really like this. I really like
mhm,
this piece of gear
absolutely.
and or this, accessory, whatever it is. It for me, it fits. And that usually shuts people up. Not that there's like a huge crowd that's walking around next to you going, oh, I can't believe you're wearing this. Like your buddies might give you some crap. We like to poke fun but you're right.
Yeah,
We
it's
are
like
in a
there's like factions that people just kind of like divide themselves into, and you'll see memes online of people who wear X brand and
mhm.
just kind of make fun of them. It doesn't really mean anything. It's just kind of a stigma, it
Yeah,
seems.
it's a fun place to giggle, but at the end of the day, use what you like and be open to hearing about what could be better or more effective, especially from like if you're talking about a rifle, glass, suppressors, or ammo is a big one, right? Because well, I've always used this. You'll hear that a lot of times. I've just always used this. My dad used it, and in actuality, a person may not have, and you may not have any conceptual knowledge about what that bullet is doing.
Right. What it's
And
designed to
it just
do.
might be super outdated. It's like, hey, can I just, not in like a snobby way, but let me tell you about this. This is like really cool that I learned. And coming at it from that perspective, or hey, have you seen like, dude, these gaiters are way better than these ones that, I've that you're wearing now, and here's why.
Hmm.
Um, but don't be a jerk.
Yeah, it's a cool time to be in the hunting space because I feel like we just have more. There's, like I said earlier, there's just more gear available now than ever before. I mean, they're coming out with new cutting edge stuff every year, and it's very dangerous at times because I see something, I'm like, oh, I want to try that, and then I just have to remind myself, nope, I don't need that. I don't need that. I don't need it to be successful. It'd be fun to try maybe, but yeah, it's just not always necessary.
So let's get on with a little bit of this discussion. And we did tap on kind of some of the gear that we first started using early on.
Hmm.
Walk me through, let's just start here. Walk me through your basic firearm progression or maturing in this space. Like, what did you first start out with? Where are you now? And give me, like, very simply, one or two facts or notes that were crucial kind of that process or that you learned.
Firearms. I mean, that's quite the evolution because, like you said, we pretty much started with shotguns. That was my first
Which
firearm.
are fantastic.
Yep. Uh, we're gonna have a podcast episode pretty soon all about shotguns and how much we love them and how awesome and versatile they are. We are shotgun fanatics, maybe more than many, just because of where we live and kind of what our opportunities are limited to.
I hear
We
Joe Biden is a big shotgun guy. He's like, "Go buy a
Yeah,
shotgun."
yeah, apparent. Yeah, you can defend your home with a shotgun.
Which is
You certainly
true,
can.
but oh, I'm going to start rabbit holing.
Um, yeah.
I
Anyway,
just saw his face and he's like, "Go buy a shotgun." That's what I just
yeah,
see it in my head.
yeah, because you and I didn't get into rifles until just the past
What a
5
tragedy.
years, 6 years or
Or a
so.
blessing. Like it's like a whole new
Yeah,
child
it's
in like our
mhm.
hunting
and
repertoire.
and now I feel like I am almost more obsessed with rifles than I am with shotguns, which
100%.
is hard to believe. But um, yeah, when I first my first gun that I got it when I was 12, I think. My dad brought me to Cabela's down Owatonna, and
Heyo.
yeah, and I got a shotgun. I picked a 12 gauge side by side, my trusty Stoger Uplander, and that was my gun for a decade
You still have it?
before. Yep, still do. Still
That's
use
the
it.
12 that you have out once in a while.
Yeah, that was the two pop where I got my nickname. Um, so that was my first gun. It had interchangeable chokes, so I could change the constriction on each barrel if I wanted that kind of stuff. Um, that was great because for a beginner, because it's like really no fuss. I mean, it's a break action. It's about as simple of a gun as
What's a
as you can
break
get.
action?
It's when you break it open and it reveals the chamber for your shells, and you just put the shells in, you close it, and you're hot and you're ready.
Think of
Um,
farmers, everyone. If
yep,
usually the guy in
exactly.
overalls shooting off his front porch at somebody going through his barn or the coyotes or something.
Hmm.
You-
Is a gun for bird hunting,
Yep.
not really made for deer hunting. But that was kind of where I started, and then as I started getting into, well, deer hunting, I was like, well, I should probably have like a pump action or something. And so I didn't go out and buy one, but I borrowed my uncle's 20 gauge pump action so I could shoot slugs out of it. That was kind of not my first experience with a pump action shotgun. I'd shot them in the past, but that was my first time hunting with one. And then that did the trick for me for a couple of years until I was like, okay, I can only shoot like 60 to 70 yards with this thing reliably. I think it's time to upgrade and get something different. And so that's when I bought my slug gun, which has a rifled barrel. So it's essentially a rifle that shoots shotgun slugs, kind of. And then around that same time, I also decided I wanted to upgrade my upgrade my shotgun situation because I wanted to do a little more hunting turkeys, and I wanted to be able to have the ability to have a third shell to shoot. So I bought a semi-auto, bought a Stoeger M3000 3-inch chamber in 12 gauge, and yeah, that's kind of where I'm sitting at in terms of shotguns. I do have one other shotgun. It is also a side by side. I really love side by sides. I kind of have an affinity for them. I think they're cool. They're classic. But this was actually, it's also a really special gun to me. It's a gun that I inherited from my grandfather who passed away when I was younger, and he was a big hunter before I kind of came into the world. But um, so I inherited that from him, and it's now one of my favorite guns I own, and I'm pretty lights out with it too. I've had a little bit of work done to it by my local gunsmith, just to kind of get it to where I want it performance wise. I use it a lot for grouse and some other smaller bird species. But progressing then, once I wanted to kind of jump into Western hunting, I was like, well, I'm gonna need a rifle. My first rifle was a Weatherby Vanguard, chambered in 30-06. It was a great gun. I don't have that gun anymore. I did sell it because I wanted to switch to a different caliber, and but it did a great job. It helped me harvest my first two Western big game animals, a pronghorn and a mule deer, and yeah, it was a great gun, especially for a beginner. It wasn't the fanciest thing in the world, but it had a smooth action. It was easy to use, had a decent trigger on it, 3-stage safety. I'm saying a lot of stuff that if you're brand new, none of this probably makes any sense to you, but we're just going through gear, right? And yeah, I wouldn't have gotten rid of that gun, except I wanted a different I wanted to shoot a different caliber for a little bit. Had a 7 rem mag that was a quick little snafu. We'll get into that a different time, but ultimately ended up where I am now, shooting 280 Ackley, um, in a Weatherby 307, um, which is based off a 700 Remington clone action. But yeah, so I mean, it's definitely evolved over time, and the things that have become important to me has been recoil mitigation, and I also shoot suppressed on my rifle, just because it's really nice not having to pack around ear protection in a hunting situation out west. If I'm doing like the range shooting or whatever, I'll still put on ear pro just because it's good just to double up on the hearing protection to really protect your ears, because once your hearing's gone, you don't get it back. Um, but it's nice in the field knowing that I can take a single shot or two shots and not have to worry about my hearing, about really damaging my hearing. It's hearing safe for the most part, and so I guess in what's been important to me over time has, yeah, been that recoil mitigation and then sound suppression, and then on top of that, um, trying to cut weight off of the overall weight of my rifle. And that's really only important if you're backpacking. Um, because at the end of the day, it's not super fun to lug around an 11-pound gun. It's nice if you can cut that weight down to, maybe between 8 and 10 pounds. I also don't want it to get too light though, because then it will recoil more. So yeah, that's been my evolution with firearms. Kind of where I'm at now. What's become important to me, and then there's archery thrown in there. We can get to that in a little bit, since we're just focusing on kind of our firearms. But what about you, Chris? Tell me about your evolution.
Well, my first exposure was for sure a 12 gauge. Scared to shoot it as a little kid because, things daunting. At least it was for me. But used my dad's gun, 12 gauge, really nice 870. Shot a bunch of deer with it.
Just a classic firearm right there.
Shot a bunch of deer with it. Open sights.
Doesn't get more classic than the Remington 870. Really doesn't.
Able to go, obviously, like with the slug barrel, and then also having a bird barrel on it, so you can change out the barrels for functionality's sake and go, duck hunting or whatever. But that all changed for me when I was in the stand and I can just vividly, it's so ingrained, seared in my, I don't know, my retinas or my frontal lobe. But I just remember seeing probably 9, 10, 11 doe coming towards me all of a sudden. Kind of caught off guard. They're coming up a crest through the woods, and they're kind of all coming, and they're being pushed a little bit. You can tell when some deer are being pushed because they're looking back, and then they're kind of running up, and they're stopping, looking again. Like, what's going on? And I just see antlers. Like, I just see, and when for those of you who've been out in the stand, when I say that, when you see antlers with substance, we're talking outside the ears, tall, lots of junk. And I'm like, what?
More antlers than you've ever seen before.
I didn't know this guy was even remotely around her in the woods. But in hindsight and after conversations, my cousin had told me there was a big one out there. And for me, I never expect to see the big one. I don't know why that is. I just, something in my mind, it's like, oh, it's that blessing's not for me. Something of that nature. I don't know. Like, you see all these stories and these awesome hunters
I'm just not the big buck guy, you know? I'm just not that guy.
and I don't go out and shoot spikes or anything like that. I let a lot of bucks pass. But I'm always looking, for something nice I can put on my wall. I kind of have a standard. I have a very nice deer on my wall, called Jerry. We've named him Jerry. But overall, this guy comes through the woods, and I mean,
And when you say this guy, you mean a big buck.
is huge. I mean, we're easily, no exaggeration, I think he was a 14 pointer, maybe more. And he's coming to me about 60 yards broadside, left to right. And he literally walks out right in front of me and stops. It's like the textbook thing you see on YouTube. It's nothing better is ever going to happen. And I'm a good shot. I sat out there and shot many times with that 870 open sights. And for whatever reason, I was resting on the crossbar, not breathing heavy, but I could feel my heart going. I'm like, when you have a very nice animal coming in front of you, you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Um, and he comes to where you want him to. He steps right in the spot that you're like, that's where I envision. Like, the whole time you're hunting, if this could happen, this happened. I put it on him, squeezed the trigger, totally missed the first shot somehow. I'm pretty sure I shot over him because I sometimes bird hunting have issues getting my cheek down on the gun. So, and I can remember I didn't put the little bead at the end right in the groove. I had let it was sitting a little high. Missed him. He ran maybe 10, 15 yards through some brush and stopped in another clearing. And this is like at maybe 75 now with open sights.
Oh man,
And I'm still
you don't get a
confident.
lot of second chances like
I'm
that.
super confused because I just don't, in hindsight, I just don't miss. Like, whenever I've put my gun on something, it's either dropped on the spot or ran maybe, like, I'm telling you, like 30 yards, and that's a bunch of deer. And he gets like 70, 75 right there, and I'm like confused. I think I hit him. Like, in my brain, I'm like, I hit him, and he's just standing there now waiting for him to go over, and he was just standing there, and he didn't look hurt. He was breathing just fine. I could see the breath coming out of his nostrils. And long story short, shot again. I did hit him through the front of his chest cavity, but probably all muscle through the front. And he took off, tracked him, never recovered him. So it clearly wasn't a kill shot. Like, the blood stopped pretty quick. So whatever terrible off day I was having, the pit of my stomach, because I just felt terrible. For one, I wounded an animal. Two, I'm competing against like all my idols of hunting, my uncles, and all these stories over the years, and these seeing big deer on the wall and all that stuff. And to have a moment where I thought I was going to be enshrined in that, like, Hall of Fame, it just made me feel terrible. So one of my uncles came out and looked. But long story short, from a gear perspective, from the firearm perspective, that just wrecked me, and it changed the way I approached especially deer hunting forever. And at that time, some of my uncles had put a like a red dot on their 870, or maybe put a scope on their other 870. Like we are kind of Remington guys, and I always didn't really like that because I felt like it restricted my eye from seeing like all around, which is really silly because you're not looking all around if you have your gun up and you're going to take a shot. But that after that, I went out, and one of my uncles had been using a Savage 220, the 20 gauge slug gun. That's fantastic. I bought one right after that,
Yep, bolt action shotgun
and
with a rifled barrel.
I haven't missed since then. So, actually, the one on my wall is from that new gun, but has a.
I think that was the first deer with that gun, wasn't it?
I think so. He came across the field. It was right at last light. Totally caught off guard. I'm walking out of my stand, and I see like his front left hoof kind of just blown off, like somebody had shot at him.
Mm-hmm.
Something happened, but I'm pretty sure somebody had shot at him. And I'm like, man, this is like 150-ish yard shot with the 220 I run. I can shoot easily 250 with it, and I have shot over 200 yards and dropped deer. So it's really fun. It's really fun when your tool works. But I put it on him and shot him and had to recover him the next morning. But yeah, that changed the game. So going forward, getting into the rifle side of things, the things I looked for, especially starting to entertain us going out west and longer shots, um, I was a little bit looking at budget because I didn't want to break the bank. I really didn't want to. 1,500 was very high for me at the time. It isn't the more I've gotten to know rifles from a cost perspective, but that's
Mm-hmm.
still a good dollar amount.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair amount of money for just about anyone.
And looking at weight, and then ultimately I was looking at caliber. What can, if I can only ever buy one rifle, if this is the rifle I buy, what do I want to use? I originally landed on the 280, but it was during like the ammo crisis of 2020. If any of
Yeah,
you remember that, there was like no ammo on the shelves.
and that's one of the reasons I landed on 30-06 also
Mm-hmm.
was because it was just like I'll be able to find this anywhere,
Yep,
even in the ammo shortage.
and
But
that was a fantastic gun for you for sure.
mm-hmm.
But I landed on Tika. And the reason I landed on Tika is because go to Shields, go to Fleet Farm, like handle some guns, pick up the rifles. Like, again, figure out what you like. And purchasing a rifle isn't the same as clothes, for one. So you can't, you know, $90 uh, isn't what you're spending on a rifle. When you buy it, you're pretty much committed. Um, Unless you got some extra change to swap out and sell it for less and buy another one. But ultimately, I love the Tika actions. They're so slick and smooth. I think they are top notch. And um, went out and bought some Vortex glass, and
Yep.
we went from definitely first focal plane. If you're looking at glass, there's a whole bunch of reasons I could give. I won't get into it now, but put that on that rifle. It's fun to now shoot, and it was crazy when we first started shooting from having shotgun experience to rifle experience. We went from, 150 to 200 yards was light years away with the shotgun. And I remember sitting at the pit and shooting
Mm-hmm.
super far and like, oh, I can't believe I'm hitting that, because my experience again was all open sights inside of like 85 yards. And now to be able to I've rung the plate at 550, and and it's important to get out there because you can still miss getting out there and making sure your gun's on, and or wind or
Yep.
whatever, but total
So
game
many
changer.
variables. Yeah, I remember that first time shooting our rifles because we both got rifles right around the same time. It was it was so crazy looking out at where once we got once you get past like 300 yards, like 300 or farther. I mean that's a good shot, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty realistic shot for out west. And I just remember looking at that target with the naked eye and just being like, this tool is going to hit that all the way over there,
Mm-hmm.
almost like in disbelief. And then you do it. And it's like, it can actually kind of do that with ease.
Mm-hmm.
It's just crazy.
That's where, like, when you mentioned recoil, um, we've heard some podcasts on that. biggest thing, because your body is going to be, you're going to flinch because you know something's going to come back and impact you. But I run a 7 rem mag. For me, it does kick, but not in the standpoint of like any uncomfortability for me. And I'm like a thinner guy, and it does at times, if I've shot a lot out there, I can get some bruising on my shoulder. Um, but yeah, if you I'm not flinching when I pull the trigger, and that if I was, or I'm not flinching enough to like affect my shots when I'm shooting out at 400 or 500 yards. Like we haven't
Right.
seen inconsistencies in that way, but
Yeah. Well, I think also the fact that all we ever knew was shotguns. I mean, shotguns have a lot of recoil, especially if you're using a 12 gauge shotgun. Like average, what is the average recoil for a 12 gauge, like a 3-inch shell? Probably like 25 foot-pounds or something like that.
yeah, it was definitely less than my shotgun. So like it wasn't bad
Yeah,
for me,
I mean that's my point is
especially
that
shooting slugs.
yeah, yeah, I know. That's my point is that I feel like we almost had the benefit of all we knew was shotguns and that kind of recoil.
Hmm.
Because then going to a rifle, especially if you have it, have a muzzle brake on it or like a suppressor, it feels like it's like nothing.
Hmm.
Um, I think I giggled the first time I shot my rifle with a suppressor on it, especially just because with the muzzle brake you kind of still get the kind of the boom factor. It kind of shakes your bones a little bit.
Dude, my
But when
my
you're
Terminator break was like a
things a
war. It was
freaking
like a
cannon,
Civil War cannon going off.
yeah. But when you use that suppressor, it's just like there's like very little recoil, and then also it's just like psst, and it's just it's so fun. I love shooting suppressed.
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
I'm
but
still running my same rifle. I've thought about many times
mhm.
swapping out the stock or something in that nature, because I don't necessarily love the factory stocks of Tika, but it
Tika is not known for their stocks. That's for sure. They're known for their actions, and their barrels are pretty good too.
yeah, and I've been happy. I really want to go to a folding stock. Um,
Chassis
there's
system.
a cool chassis out there. I think it's Oregon Mountain Rifle or something like that that
Mhm.
I've seen. Savage has a new one out that has a folding stock. I think it's on that same chassis, and that's just from a
Yeah,
packability standpoint. And
there's the MDT
oh, that's
Hunt
yeah,
26. That one's pretty sweet.
yeah, and that just from like a packability, throwing it on my pack, it would change how I pack my rifle on my back, and then the weight a little bit. But I'm at like again, I started this podcast saying I really am at a place where I have everything I need. Like I don't
Yeah, for
need to
sure.
go out and change things up for the sake of changing things up, which I'm happy about because I could focus on family and have not something tugging on my heart to like go spend extra money. But
Mhm.
talk to me a little bit if you don't have any last thoughts. You have any last thoughts on that?
I was just gonna say we're at the point where anytime we're changing gear, it's just nitpicky stuff,
Yeah.
and I would say that a lot of what we're at where we're at now is kind of getting things to be more efficient. And when I say efficient, I mean lighter weight, maybe something that can have multi-use. So you're packing just you have less things in general. Really just simplifying as much as you can, but without actually losing the ability to do certain things.
Yeah.
Um,
With that, I want to jump into two categories. I want to do backpacks, and then
mhm.
I or packs, and then I also want to do boots, which we have touched on a little bit before.
Yeah.
Which one do you want to start with?
Let's talk packs.
I started out with a random camo backpack from I think Realtree. I still have it. The zippers
Your big dog,
is
it says big dog on it.
does it?
Yeah, you still use it for your tree stand pack.
Yeah, or my turkey pack. It's just a basic like
Yeah,
backpack, and
it does it does what you need it to.
it's got a long history with me. But
Yeah.
we've been through a couple iterations of EXO mountain gear packs for out
Mhm.
west, which the K4 is fantastic. If you're looking for something, we had our brother-in-law literally order what 5 or 6 different brands, ship them to his
I don't
house.
remember how many it was, but it was a handful for sure.
Yeah, and
which is an expensive bill until you're able to return the ones you don't want.
Yeah, he did land on the same one, and I think he's glad he did.
Yep.
It's a fantastic pack, but there's a lot of utility with that. There's a lot of adaptability, combinations. You can put, pockets and bags, or what are they called? Like zippered bag pocket type situations. You can run your
Yep.
sidearm on it if you're out in the mountains. Uh, and a lot of them have that functionality. I'm not saying it's the only one. It's just been really fantastic for us from as far as packing
Mhm.
out meat to we have is it 5500 5000 5500?
We have the 5,000 cubic inch bag.
That seems to be
Um,
enough.
yeah, I think so. I mean, I think I'd probably want the 7,200 if I was doing like an expedition style hunt, like out in Alaska
But
or
they don't have the horseshoe zipper
the
on it.
horseshoe zipper. I know. I just wish they.
That's
I probably would have gotten the
that's why I
7,200
didn't order
bag
the 72.
if it had the horseshoe. Wow, that can be hard to say. Yeah, I think I started with like a Cabela's like a backpack no, I think I probably bought it at Fleet Farm actually. Yeah, just like I just need a backpack, like a camo backpack. And I remember it had like this removable hip belt thing. It wasn't even really supportive at all. I don't really know the purpose of it. I think I took it off because it was more annoying than anything. Um, but I have a couple different bags. So yeah, I don't run that basic camo bag anymore, although it did the trick for tree stand hunting and whatnot and carrying ammo around. Um, but now I've got two main bags that I have a smaller bag. I think it's a Kuiu Venture 1800. It's a it's like a day pack type thing. It's not. It doesn't even have like a true frame in it. It's really what I use for tree stand hunting. I might use it like turkey hunting and stuff. It keeps my stuff in it, but it's not. I'm not going to pack out an animal with it or anything. And then I have the XO K4, which has been awesome. In between there, before we had the K4, we had the XO K3, which also is an amazing pack, and you can find those secondhand usually for a pretty good price, and they're still an
Mhm.
excellent pack. And XO stands by their products, so they take good care of you with great customer service. Um,
Fantastic.
yeah, but I mean, I haven't hunted with any other pack brands. I've tried on different packs. I've tried on packs from Kuiu. I've tried on packs from Stone Glacier. I'm trying to think if there's any other main ones that I've tried on. I haven't tried Kifaru. I haven't tried Initial Ascent. Although my buddy Nick that I'll be hunting in Montana with, he's using one of the new Initial Ascent packs, and
Hmm.
I've heard really good things. So I'll be interested to see how he likes it. Not that I'm looking to switch. I'm just always interested to hear how people like their different brands and
I
whatnot.
don't
So
know if I don't know if there's a scenario where I would switch my boots, my pack. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I love my base layers. Man, do I love my base layers. I wear them all the time.
yeah, I still think First Light makes the best base layers on the market,
But
but
yeah,
I also haven't tried all of them, so it's really hard to say. I mean, I think it's hard to make claims about brands and stuff unless you like being like, oh, they're the best, unless you've like actually tried multiple. It's hard. Sometimes it's hard to sift through. It's like, is this guy just saying this because he's brand loyal or he's sponsored, or has he like actually tried like everything?
if we were
You know what I mean?
sponsored, I'd tell you we were sponsored.
Right.
But
Yeah.
as we're not sponsored right now, I'm coming at the pack and the boot standpoint of they really do excel to meet every single need I have.
Hmm.
So I really can't imagine a better setup than I have now. Not that it's not
Yeah.
possible. It's just it's going to be really difficult to exceed my experiences with those already.
Yeah. Well, and depending on what your use case is, you may not need like a really nice backpack. Like for us, we are hunting out west, we're doing backcountry hunts, we're hiking in far, we're packing animals out on our back. So we need a technical pack that can handle all that stuff, that can handle really, really heavy loads, but also a pack that's lightweight enough that it's not adding to our overall weight.
Yeah, because
So that's how we
it's nice to be able to uh, crunch it down because it does. It
Mhm.
compacts way down, and you could run it really light and just throw your
Right.
rifle on there, some water, your game bags. You can even leave all that stuff and just have some snacks with you. There's lots of pockets. It's functionally, it's awesome.
Yeah, but if you're duck hunting or if you're just tree stand hunting and you don't need the capability of a more expensive or technical pack like that, there's nothing wrong with your Fleet Farm special. There's nothing wrong with a basic backpack at Cabela's. Heck, you don't even have to get a backpack that has a camo pattern on it. Like, it's not necessary.
If you are going backcountry and you're going to be hauling out meat, you uh, I, I you need a pack with a rack. Like
With a frame,
you
yeah,
have
like a
to. There's no, unless you have llamas or horses or something that's rolling with you where you have that set up. If you're doing it by yourself with a buddy or a group, you need to think about that more than anything else, because
mhm.
in addition to all your gear, you're going to be packing out 80 pounds, give or take.
Yep. Yeah, so I mean that's kind of the journey we've taken with packs. So I mean you heard it here. Chris right now is on both ends of the spectrum. He has his super basic backpack that he still uses to this day, and then he also has his XOK4 that costs like $750. So I mean that's quite the range. And I'm similar. I think my more basic pack that I use is not quite as basic as Chris's pack.
Mine's basic. It's like a knapsack that first graders going to school
Quite literally,
in camo.
quite literally in camo. Yep. And then I also have the EXO. So it's like
And we
it's nice to have multiple options
when
for different
buying
use
those
cases.
high dollar items, that is after a ton of research. That's after a ton of Peter and me conversating about every little thing about it, and knowing that it's a long haul investment.
Big
If
time.
it doesn't rip, this is something that I can have for the rest of my life, and I'll use for the
Hmm.
rest of my life. And to be honest, so far it looks like it's going to be holding up in every
Hmm.
regard. I don't see any wear and tear. I've been through quite a few seasons now. We were running the K3 for a couple seasons, but
Yep.
it's fantastic. Jump over to boots real quick, because in my mind,
Yep.
when I thought about this, there's probably three scenarios for me. One, there's my tree stand boots, which need to be insulated, especially if it's cold in November or December and I'm just sitting there. I gotta have my feet warm. There's some solutions around different type of socks and combinations of throwing something on the outside of the boots, or some people go those warmy things. They get inside the entire insulated poof.
I just got some of those.
No, I'm talking about
With
the full body one where
Oh no, mine's not the full body, but mine are they're called Arctic Shield.
uh-huh.
I haven't tried them yet for tree stand hunting. I'll mess with them this upcoming season.
And then
But yeah, they're literally these things that just go over your boots and they're insulated and they keep your feet warm.
so
I'm
typically
pretty excited for it.
those are going to be very clunky boots.
Yeah,
And
treat your
I have run my Western boots, my Crispies, which are, they run up to my calf, like mid calf. Those work really well. They're not insulated, and we run non-insulated because it can get really warm out there in some scenarios of Western hunting.
and I'd rather just change my socks to
Yep.
kind of to
And
adapt to
and
the
I do
conditions.
run those as well because I've almost stepped on a series of snakes. Apparently, I'm the one that gets them out there. I've almost stepped on a rattler. I'm 8 inches from my foot, and then come across some other ones slithering by. So, from a comfortability sake, I want something substantial, high on my calf. I usually wear my gaiters unless it's major hot. But if it's major hot, you're probably watching for from snakes being out in the sun or something like that too. They might
Yep.
be under rocks, but and then your duck boots, like something that you're going to be, and
Yeah, muck boots.
that's pretty much your muck boots or your gaiters, which I consider gaiters kind of being boots, but
Yeah. I uh
I
I
do have.
I take a similar approach,
Let me just
I
add this: I
guess.
do have
Oh,
my lighter, crispy boots.
that you're
They're
trying to sell.
that I am trying to sell, but I was going to get to that because I've found in every scenario, even if it's warm, I am wearing my higher Crispies.
Hmm.
They're leather. They are, we'll just say, premium, and if you take care of stuff like that, it lasts a long time. But it gives me the ankle support I want. I would really like a tenny like a tennis shoe. I'm a former basketball. I'll just say former now. I play once in a while on Fridays, but uh, I like a really light foot. I like feeling the ground, and I wanted to facilitate through the other lighter, crispy, low profile boots that I have, but it just not doing it for me. So that
Yeah. We'll talk more because I have some options I think you should try.
mm. But
Um,
I don't need. I'm getting to the point where I might not need it because I keep going back to my leather higher calfed ones. So I mean, we're not wearing shorts out in Wyoming, So
but it does get hot out there, man. And I mean, I agree. The leather boots, like I wear Hanwags, and those are kind of like my do-it-all boot, right? I wear them for pretty much everything. But for those warmer climates, it is nice to have something that breathes a little bit better, just because the leather boots just don't breathe super great, and they can get really hot, especially if you're wearing a wool sock or
this is true.
something.
This is true.
So I found myself. So if you're done, I'll kind of run through my boots that I have. Um, so yep, I've got my Hanwag Tatra tops. Those are my kind of my do it all go to hunting boot, kind of like Chris. Kind of runs, kind of halfway up the calf, full leather.
That's your third iteration of functionality wise that boot because you had Schnees.
I started with Schnees, and it was a good boot. It didn't fit my foot quite
Did you have
right.
Crispies or no?
No, I never. Crispies just don't fit my feet well, unfortunately. I've tried them. I've tried them on in the store, and they just don't fit my foot right. So I had Schnees, and then after that experience, what I did is I actually ordered like 6 pairs of boots and had them all shipped to my house. And I did this through Go Hunt because they have free shipping if you're an insider member, and their return process is really easy, and they actually have a really big database of boots and like fit notes and that kind of stuff. So I ordered several pairs of boots and just tried on a bunch of them, took notes, literally side by side note comparisons and stuff, and landed on my current boots, which have been really good. I do have custom insoles in those. Just because I have a foot with a pretty high arch, and so I like to have really good support for my feet to be comfortable, especially if I'm hiking miles and miles and miles. So anyway, I have those boots. Then I also have I have some Lacrosse Alpha Burley Pros, which are my rubber boots. Essentially, I'll use them for um, duck hunting. I'll use them for really any kind of hunting where I'm not going to be walking really long distances, just because they're not really made for trekking around. They're made for keeping your feet warm and dry. Um, those have been great. I've had a couple pairs of those over the years. They hold up pretty good. Um, then I don't really have a dedicated cold weather boot. Um, I guess I usually just kind of play with socks and like sock thickness to get myself through colder weather. And now I have those little booties that go over the boots
My
to keep
cold
my
weather
feet
boots
warm.
are like for when it's really cold,
Yeah,
like really cold.
I guess I've just never really had a desire to have like a super thick clunky boot like that. I don't know. Um,
It's birthed from the era of tree stand hunting, so
yeah, yeah.
they are not recent purchases.
Then I do have more of a lightweight boot for warmer climate. It's the Salewa Wildfire GTX, I believe is what they're called. They are a synthetic boot. They are not leather. They are very lightweight. They have a lot of flex. They feel very similar to a tennis shoe on your foot, but the overall height they go just over your ankles. Um, they're lightweight. They are waterproof though, and they're very comfortable. And I got those mainly from having hunted in some hot climates the past few years, and it is really nice to not have such a hot, heavy boot on. And they're also super lightweight, which is beneficial. So I've enjoyed those, gotten to wear those for a couple hunts. I haven't worn them for a hunt out west yet, but I've done some stuff around here. And then my last thing I have is I have some trail runners. Um, they're like trail shoes. I guess they're technically trail
Sounds
runners.
like you have too many boot options. You don't need as many. Whoever's listening to this, Peter has way too many boot options, in my opinion.
Well, these are not boots. These are actually shoes, so they're below the ankle. But they're the Solomon Speedcross threes, I think. And I did wear these in Wyoming because they've got it's like the bottom of them is really rugged. They have like really large lugs in them, so they're really good for. Well, they're meant for like trail running, so they have really good grip and everything, but they're flexible and light like a tennis shoe. Um, and so if I'm in a situation where I might not need as much ankle support, I'm thinking especially like antelope hunting, where you want something lightweight. Um, and yeah, don't
Dove
necessarily need
hunting.
that ankle support. Dove hunting. I don't think I've worn those dove hunting.
We did forget
I don't remember.
one. We did forget the most important:
What's that?
Crocs.
Oh, Crocs. Yes.
If you
Yes, they
don't
are
know, Crocs are awesome because they're super light, like they're completely waterproof, and you can.
not waterproof. Well, I mean, yeah,
Yeah, they
but
are.
they're made of like a foam,
Yeah, they're like
like a rubbery foam.
nothing can damage them, and pretty well. That's not true. We
Cactus needles can.
cactus needles go through them. But overall, when you're in the mountains and you want to get out of your boots, putting on your Crocs to walk around camp or
Great camp
just
shoes.
awesome.
Also, caveat here, which I will be using these this spring in Montana. They're if you have to cross any kind of stream, Crocs are excellent because you can cross the stream in your Crocs because obviously they're waterproof. They're kind of like a water shoe. And that way you're not having to step on rocks or muck or whatever in your bare feet. That you can rinse them right off, throw them back on your pack. Perfect for stream
Which we've
crossings.
done.
Yes. So yeah, Crocs are a major part of the hunting
Major win.
arsenal.
Well, let's
Major win.
if we've kind of shored up a little bit of that conversation, we have. I mean, we could touch on some upgrades, like
Quick
recent.
question.
Yeah.
Quick question for you. Which Crispies do you have? Do you remember? Are they the guides? It's like their top. You have like the Crispies like top of the line
GTX something,
boots.
right?
Guide G. I think you have the Guide GTX if I remember correctly.
There's a lot of versions, a lot of
Yeah,
trim options, just
every
like a Ford
every
pickup.
boot company makes different boots made for different shoes or for different feet and for different purposes, but pretty much every major boot brand kind of has their flagship
Size
model.
does play a factor. I ran a half size too small when I first
Mm-hmm.
bought this version of the boot, and it wasn't too small like in the store. Like my toes didn't touch the end, but from a constriction around my foot standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
I was having a lot of trouble when we were out. Like they were not just like blisters, but my foot felt like it just couldn't breathe. It was just constricted. So I went out and got another
Sure.
size up. Game changer. Total game
Well,
changer.
and it's important to realize with boots, especially if you're doing a lot of hiking, is that your feet do swell over time. The longer you're on your feet, the heavier load and everything, with all that blood flow, your feet do swell. And so if you're wearing a boot that's really tight when your foot gets in there and there's no room for that swelling to kind of go, yeah, it's gonna be bad
Yeah.
news bears.
But talk to me some about some recent upgrades from a gear standpoint, and then let's marry this with the impact of those gear upgrades. So
Mm-hmm.
give me your latest gear upgrade.
My latest and unproven because I haven't used it in the field yet, but I recently upgraded my tripod head. Um, so I was using a Suruyu. I think that's how you say it. Yeah, I don't think anyone actually knows how to say it. A Suruyu VA5 pan head, which is a great tripod head for glassing. Yeah, I think as far as tripod heads go, it's probably one of the most common and most highly recommended pan heads out there. It's very smooth. It's pretty lightweight. It just does a great job. I really had no complaints about it. However, I have been becoming a little more interested in using a tripod to shoot my rifle off of. And in theory, you could shoot a rifle that has an Arca Swiss plate on it, and you could, in theory, use the VA5 to shoot off of, but it's not made for that. It's made for glassing, it's made for camera equipment, that kind of thing. So I wanted a tripod head that would be able to not only handle my optics, but also would be able to handle the recoil of a rifle and the weight of a rifle. And so there's a company called Aziak Equipment. I think he's based out of Arizona. Or is he based out of? I think he's based out of Arizona. But he makes a lot of ultralight gear, specifically that pertains to a lot of glassing and stuff like that. And he came out with this ball head. Now, I don't want to get super deep in the weeds here on different tripod heads, but he came out with a ball head called the Front Country ball head. And essentially a ball head, it's exactly what it sounds like. There's a ball and a joint, and the surface that your optics mounts to is on that ball. So ball heads are not always the greatest for glassing, just because you can't like smoothly pan and articulate as well, because the ball is controlled by tension. Whereas with a pan head, you do a little, smoother movements and everything with your binoculars. But he designed this ball head where you can actually put it into a mode where it locks and it turns into a pan head. It can still do the panning feature even though it's a ball head. So it's kind of the best of both worlds, because it's kind of generally accepted that ball heads are superior for actually shooting off of, because it works better with a rifle attached to it, because you have better articulation. And so seemed pretty sweet, and it's also super lightweight, and so I am going to be trying that this year. Again, not because there's anything wrong with the setup I had before, but simply because I wanted to try something different that's going to maybe give me a couple different options to shoot off of.
So now you have all just heard the depthful articulation and processing of Peter on a new piece of gear. And
it's just tinkering. It's just tinkering. That's all it is.
There's usually like back and forth in this space, because like you'll give the examination, you all the details, and I'll look at it and I'm pretty quick to be like, no, I don't like it. or no, this is great. So there's some R&D that goes into our generic, which is really fun. I was gonna say for me, the jacket setup, like kind of the changes in jackets that we purchased this last season. In hindsight, I'm thinking about right now, because I wish I wouldn't have got the camo. I wish I would have got the hard color, the solid color, because I have the leafy top. For those of you who don't know, a leafy top is this really lightweight mesh leaf, literally like leafy type top that First Light has. That's fantastic to throw over just about everything when you're duck hunting or turkey hunting or any of those. And I would have worn that jacket a lot more than I do, simply because I just don't wear camo patterned stuff out and about. I wear solid color stuff, which I am wearing one of, those solid colored jackets that I wear all the time right now. So that's been.
Anything else that you're going to be trying out this upcoming season that's a change, or maybe in your mind an improvement?
I mean, we're running the new Vortex sights for our shotgun, the red dots.
Yeah.
We'll talk about more of that later, because we just haven't. You've sighted yours in. I'm still waiting on mine to come in, but for turkey season,
has it shipped yet?
I don't think so.
Oh, it's
back ordered.
It's got to be soon, man. Got to be soon.
It's cool. I'm not gonna. I'll be a little bummed out, but I'm not like.
If it doesn't come before turkey season.
Yeah, we still got a bit.
A little bit.
When it ships, like shipping's getting better these days, right?
Yeah.
I'm spoiled. Like at Amazon Prime, everything shows up like next day on the doorstep. I don't know. I just think from a clothing standpoint, I have a terrible gear option that I had that popped into my mind early on.
Yeah, what's a piece of gear that you like kicked to the curb?
I didn't even use it, Peter. It was that table, that really lightweight table.
All right.
I still have it. It's gonna end up in like a garage sale, I wouldn't say $5 thing, but it'll end up in like something like that because I just practicality wise, I don't have any need for it, and it's extra weight.
Right.
And being in the backcountry, going through the terrain that we have, we're killing every single half pound that we can. So it's not going to get
Yep.
back into my gear. Do you have
Mm-hmm.
a terrible, or do you remember a terrible one I've purchased? Because I like purchasing terrible gear options. Because I'm of this theory that if I buy something super crappy, it could possibly be the greatest investment in the history known to hunters. And so
you're
far,
you're
I
willing you're willing
so far it's been
you're willing to,
elusive.
you're willing to take a bet just for just being original.
Guys,
But
you've heard it before, but a semi-auto shotgun. It's called a Dickinson or something of that
yeah,
name.
I think it was Dickinson. Yeah.
I'm like, this is going to be fantastic.
How much was it? 180 bucks?
It's made in Italy.
No, it
And
was made in Turkey.
oh, was it Turkey?
Yeah, but a lot of shotguns are made in Turkey now. So it was like, well, maybe it's one of the good Turkish
I
shotguns.
secretly had this deep-seated desire that I was going to find the holy grail, and it was going to work so awesome, and I was going to shoot birds out of the sky right next to you, and you were just going to have to go, that was a great investment, man. Because that would be the nod. That would be like the total nod to
But
success.
what was it? Was it the first time you had the gun
That
out
thing
and started
jammed more
having
times than
issues?
anything's jammed in the history of the world. It was a piece of junk. The spring always popping off. Like in the field, it wasn't ejecting. It was
Oh my
so
goodness.
terrible. So terrible. So I'm not even bashful or shy to throw shade on that company. But get your crap together, man. Nobody buy their stuff.
I mean, dude, what did you expect from a $180 semi-auto shotgun?
I expected that the Fleet Farm
You
sale,
can't even find pump shotguns for that
Fleet
price.
Farm let me down that day. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
We've been we've
Maybe
been treated.
maybe you just had a lemon. Maybe they actually make really great shotguns. And you just had a lemon.
See, now I might want to go buy another one to try
No,
to
don't do
test
it.
it.
Oh
Uh,
man.
do you remember any
No.
other bad investments?
Um I don't know if I even classify this as a bad investment because I don't actually even remember buying it. I don't know if I even did buy it or if I just inherited it from something. I had a little, maybe you even remember this. Our first couple Western hunts out there, going to the bathroom is a concern, and burying your byproduct is important. And so I had this little folding spade shovel thing,
I
and
remember.
I mean, I'm like, yeah, I got to have something to dig holes out there, right? And but in hindsight, that thing weighs like 3 freaking pounds,
It was
and
heavy.
so it's heavy. Like I think I found it
We
the other
called it the
day, and I was
poop
like,
pack, and it came with like toilet paper, wipes, or something. I don't remember. It was a couple
yeah,
different items in there, but that shovel was heavy.
yeah. So I've changed that kit since. I don't have that shovel in there anymore. Now, what I actually did, I can't remember. I think I found this on a forum or something. I thought it was a great idea. So what someone did is they took like a snow stake, which is a specific kind of stake that you use for staking down your tent in snow. It's kind of like it's I don't know. It's probably about 8 inches long. It's made of aluminum and it kind of has like a little bit of a scoop shape to it. And it's like half an ounce or like an ounce or something. So it's super lightweight. And they just use that as a little shovel to dig a hole. I'm like, that's genius. Why was I carrying around a 3 pound shovel in my backpack? That's so stupid. Just to dig holes to put my poop in. So silly.
Yeah, that was pretty
Um,
terrible. I'm disappointed in you.
yeah, me too.
I
Me
didn't
too. I
even
can't
really
believe I didn't
consider
think out
that weight until you mentioned it right now, because
why did I think outside the box on
it
that?
did
Like freaking use a
disappear.
spork or something.
What's crazy is like I
Oh,
got this bayonet, this World War II bayonet, and it's like so heavy. I know that you guys can't see right now, but I found it at a garage sale, and it goes on the front of like an M1 Grand. And I'm a history
pretty
buff.
sweet.
I made a movie. It was a World War II movie. I love World War II stuff. I love our guys and everything that they went through. But just having like a piece of that because it's an actual like bayonet off it, but it's heavy, and I just
It's heavy, man. And that's where I think the hunting industry has taken the biggest leaps and
dude,
bounds.
our
It's just
knives,
everything is becoming so lightweight. It's
our
like cutting
knives, dude, are
cutting
awesome.
ounces. hmm Montana Knife Company. We had the Speed Goat. How much? I mean, they're what, 2.5, 3 ounces, something like that. Crazy light,
They're fantastic. They come with
and they're
wrapped
razor sharp,
wrapped in
man.
paracord, and
Mm-hmm.
if you, yeah, I would order another one. They're spendy, but I think they're
Mm-hmm.
well worth it.
One other gear item that I'm doing this year, or new for this year, is I'm trying new gaiters this year
Wow.
from Peaks equipment. Um,
Why?
um, so what I've been using the past few years is the First Light Brambler gaiters, and those have been great. Like I really don't have too many complaints about them. Um, I don't super love. I
You're
don't
never going to be
super.
friends with Steve Ranella because someday we're going to meet him, and I'm going to be like, yeah, I love your stuff. And I think you're fantastic. You got me into hunting.
Hey,
And you're going to be like, I've abandoned you. I wear everything that's not yours anymore.
hey, I still wear majority First Light.
So
The majority of my wardrobe is First Light.
so one of the best things that the most fun we have out in the field is narrating our hunts and our own experiences from
In the voice of Steve
in the
Ranella.
voice of Steve Rennell. When you're out here in the wild and your buddy's missing, the best thing to do is just stand in place and shoot some shots up in the air. That way, like, we just like make stuff up, and it's awesome. They get worse and worse every time we open our mouth.
They
But
get a little more extreme, a little bit more crazy.
it's great because it passes the time, especially when you're glassing. Like you're eating snacks and you're not scrolling on some like Instagram account, or you're just in nature. It's awesome.
Yep.
Thank you, Steve
But
Ranella. I'm giving you a shout out right there for being so near and dear to. I
the
swear,
hearts of many.
you're
The
like
hearts of many.
Steve. You're narrating our own hunts. You're always with us.
Oh man. Um, but yeah, so some new gators. Again, those First Light gators are great. They did pretty much everything. I'm not a huge fan of their cinching system at the top.
Agreed. There needs to be something with that excess
Um,
fabric.
and I don't even know I can fault them for this, but I've when wearing the gate when I wear those gaiters in the snow will get super packed into the Velcro on the front side, and then they just don't stick anymore. So trying something a little
Yeah, it
different.
sounds like you have a personal problem. Mine have never experienced non-sticking.
Maybe I'm just the only one going through deep snow, Chris. I don't know.
No, I've gone through
No.
some snow.
Well, I don't know what the deal is, but yeah. And also mine currently have a hole in them, even though they've been patched. But literally the first hunt we wore them out, there was a piece of barbed wire coming out of the ground in the middle of a field, and it got caught in my gator and tore him. Do you
Yeah,
remember
but
that?
you have a cool stitch on it now because you fixed them, so they're so signature.
It's signature, but I'm trying something new this year.
So tell me how. Let's keep moving. Tell me how one of these upgrades has led to either your or our combined greater success. Like, how would you say something has impacted us for the better? I definitely think about the stove right off the bat. I don't know why, but
Yeah.
to as far as a comfortability and keeping yourself out in the field longer, we were in a cold elk hunt, a very cold elk hunt this past year, and we had that stove roaring, but it was still
Kept us
cold.
nice and toasty. Well, it was, but man,
You had to
it
wake
was
up and keep feeding it, and I'm just saying that
yeah,
it was cool.
it was pretty sweet. I think that's really big. Again, it's kind of like I said earlier, the higher quality gear, it's not necessarily going to make you more successful, but it's going to lend more opportunity for success, mainly by keeping you in the field and keeping you out there longer. And if we hadn't been warm at night, I don't know how well
We've been
that
through some
whole.
terrible weather, and that terrible
Mhm.
weather, and to be honest, there's been some not safe weather with hail and really, really severe storms. So we did go and get like a hotel. Um, but do you remember? Here's a gear item. Do you remember the first binos I was rolling?
Um, I think so. It
They were like
they were
micro
like teeny tiny little.
Bushnells,
Yes, I
something
do. I
something
do
like
remember
that.
now. Yep.
And they've since transferred to my daughter, and she's broke them. But I would say a gear item that's really non-negotiable and led to for sure greater success in the field is our glass. Like
Better optics
to be
for
able to throw
sure.
your binos up and really assess. I'm running the 12 by 50s, which I in hindsight I wish I had 10s from a scanning perspective. I've
Hmm.
realized that now, and you were right. You've always told me that, even though I was like, no, I want 12s because I want to get in there and see in the shadows. And but yeah, tens are really ideal. But they have allowed us to explain it. You can make calls quicker. You can assess things really quick. Um, even when the elk like winded us, I had my binos up, or I think you did too. I don't know, but you're able to see what they're doing because we knew they were putting their nose in the wind. Um, turkeys, what are they doing? We've seen turkeys from hundreds and hundreds of yards away and creeped
Hmm.
in on them and been successful. So I would attribute that mostly to you because you usually lead the way in like some sort of gear upgrade. And then I follow. You tend to go a little bit more premium side than I do. Um,
And then eventually you get there.
well, I don't even know about that. Like my binos are still not the razors, right?
Right. I think you have the Vortex Vipers 12 by 50s,
And
which I had Vipers at one point too, and they're great.
yeah, I'm just, and I would love a pair and I would welcome a pair
Hmm.
and I'm not opposed to a pair. Functionality wise, like what's the jump in making me more successful with that? Maybe ease on the eyes after
Hmm.
long extended periods of glassing. But at the same time, you can kind of like take breaks and, one guy can be
It's
looking and,
the biggest upgrade you would see is glass clarity, and you've looked through mine, so you know
oh yeah,
that.
there's a noticeable difference.
And then there's also going to be visuals at low light. It's just gonna
Yep.
clearer glass is gonna be a little better in low light
Hmm.
situations. But aside from that, I mean,
And lifetime
yours
warranty.
are
So,
yours are
so it's not like a
yeah,
bad investment. Like if something breaks, just send them in, they send it
right,
back fixed. So
yeah. But yours are lighter than mine because usually with nicer glass comes it's heavier.
that's true.
So your binos are smaller. They're a lot more portable, and they're lighter. And yours even have a higher magnification, and yours are still lighter than mine. So,
Yeah.
but
I knew in Wyoming when I first threw them up and I started scanning and then, I found a couple muleys underneath some trees. I just didn't, and I liked having still the little bit more magnification,
hmm.
but from a scanning perspective, like throwing it on if it's not on, if they are not on my tripod, they're a little more shaky just simply
Yep.
because they're zoomed in. So
Hmm.
anything else?
Yeah, I think optics is a big thing. I'm trying to think off the top of my rangefinder.
Yep.
Quality of rangefinder
Yep. That's
is a
big.
big one. I had a super cheapo. I believe I got it on Facebook Marketplace. I think I got that
Facebook
rangefinder
special.
for like I think I got that rangefinder for like $30, and it did the trick for at the time because I wasn't really doing any western hunting yet. It did the trick for my purposes of tree stand hunting mostly. Um, but outside of that, I would not trust that thing to range past 200 yards. And so an upgrade in rangefinder, it stretched out my capabilities. Also just had some other better built-in features in terms of like um, angle compensation and all that kind of stuff.
And if you're archery hunting, please get a rangefinder. We we have, let's just say we've been on some hunts where endearing individuals in our lives have shown up, no rangefinder and bow hunting, and it's like how you gonna tell? It's a
Yeah.
non-negotiable.
Well, what did they do back in the day? But they also weren't using compound bows that,
Yeah.
were very precise. But
Rangefinder plays also into the glass on your firearm too.
mhm.
Like I mentioned earlier, first focal plane is, I mean, just start looking at it, jump on a YouTube video, see the differences, and then go. look through some at like Shields, there are definitely tiers of quality when it comes to glass, and
Yep.
they will impact your success.
Hmm.
So, moving on.
Yeah. Sure. What else we got? We should probably wrap up here pretty soon.
I think we already talked about it, kind of a lot of this essential gear for new hunters. Um, Again, just what are you doing with your firearm? Make sure you go out and practice. Two, make sure you're dressed appropriately for the environment, staying warm or staying cool.
Hmm.
You can look at like base layers, mid layers, and outer layers. When you go to like First Light's site, you're going to get a lot of options. You can use filters. Stone Glacier has that.
Hmm.
You can see what you need for where you're going to be hunting, and then just be safe. Like from a safety standpoint, don't go out on thin ice in the winter to try to get somewhere faster. Or I think just from a gear perspective, you're not going to do well. You're going to lose it all if you're doing something like that. But
Yep.
don't be scaling cliffs without your buddy yelling out belay on and your rock climbing gear. But is there anything else?
Yeah. Um, I mean, we could talk a little bit about when the time does come if you want to invest. Um, I have learned I've learned over the years there are certain items where I kind of live by buy once, cry once in a way. Um, we've talked about this in the past, and even maybe a little bit on this episode, but there are certain items that you can get away with something cheap. And most items you can get away with something cheap. But if you get to a point
Like you
in
can go out and
your
buy a nice Ruger rifle for $600 and
Mhm.
put a glass on there for 200-300 bucks, and
Yeah.
you got a nice setup, and it'll shoot like, if you practice, you'll shoot accurate with it.
And I mean, guys have been guys have been hunting in their jeans and a t-shirt and crappy boots they bought at Fleet Farm and using the most basic firearms for years, and they still are successful, and you can do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But also, in today's day and age, gear is better than it's ever been. Even the cheap stuff is better than it's ever been.
Mhm.
And so, I don't know, if say you've gone a couple years, you've used the cheap stuff, and you've decided, yep, this is for me, I want to invest in some, higher quality gear. You still don't have to pay
Facebook
full price
groups.
for things. There's Facebook groups where you can buy secondhand. That can be really great. Rockslide.com is a great one for buying secondhand gear from other hunters just like you. You can even trade stuff on there. There are almost always discount codes, coupon codes to be found. I never buy anything full price. There's no reason to. You can find discounts on stuff.
and
There's no reason to be
and
paying full retail price for
and
anything.
it rings true time and time again. Quality over
Hmm.
quantity. You don't need a ton of stuff. You don't just need like a closet full of hunting gear. That does you no good, because you can only wear a few of the items at one time anyways.
You may need a big closet if you like to hunt everything, kind of like we do. But if you're just a guy that whitetail hunting is your thing, that's all you do. Get your whitetail specific items, and you don't need to buy
Mhm.
anything
You're
else
going to use them probably for the
until.
rest of your life. So why
Mhm.
would you not want something that is great quality?
Well, and I think that's the thing to touch on is that when you buy quality, you're not going to have to replace it. Whereas if you with some of the cheaper stuff with that lower quality, you may have to replace it every year, every other year. So you have to kind of do a cost assessment and be like, okay, do I want to spend more money on the front end for something I know is going to last me a long time, or do I want to just spend the bare minimum right now just to get me in the door and then potentially have to replace it year over year every couple of years? And to
Mm,
you, I mean, that's all going to be dependent on you. You might not have the cash now, so don't let not being able to afford premium gear keep you out of the field.
I think my first bow was like 150 bucks from a buddy.
Yeah,
And because
yeah.
I was talking to my wife, and I'm like, hey, I think I want to get into bow hunting. There's an option here for me to pick up a bow. It's
Hmm.
cheap. If I like it, I can go and invest. something later, and I can always resell this. And
Yeah.
that bow was great. Um, it
It
didn't really
did the job for you.
fit me because I'm a very more lanky guy. So when I upgraded,
But you also didn't know what you didn't know at the time, you
100%
know?
true, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then going in actually getting fitted, and then looking at like, okay, what are the options? And then I spent some good money on a nice bow,
Yeah.
and we do utilize our bows. Um,
Mm-hmm.
didn't get to really do it this last year. I think I might have got out once,
Yeah, I got out once
but we
with my
also
bow.
had a ton of other stuff going on, and
Yeah.
yeah.
It was
So
a busy
I
year.
think next elk trip is going to be a bow trip.
I think so too. But yeah, guys, so you know, if you have the funds to invest in quality gear, do that. If the funds are just not even kind of in the question, but you still want to go hunting, don't let the fact that you don't have money for the super high quality gear keep you out of the
And
field.
there's tons of people, and you may know them, who have gear. And
That you can
if you're
borrow.
looking
Yeah.
to like get into hunting again, or in general, I'm sure there. I am, and I know you are, Pete. We lend gear to our group or guys on
Mm-hmm.
different things, so they don't have to spend additional money.
Yep.
Those
Because
op.
it can definitely be a barrier to entry
Yep,
depending on the kind of hunting you're getting into. Um, but I don't want gear to be what keeps people from doing this amazing thing that we get to do.
100%.
And so, as usual, I mean, if you have any questions about specific gear items, if you want to know exactly what we use, I think we're gonna be sharing some gear lists on our website. But if you want to know more about what we specifically use for different types of hunts, and if you want to know what kind of hunting we do, I feel like we've covered it pretty good. But if you want to know like what we do and then what we use for those hunts, shoot us an email or shoot us a DM on socials. Give us a follow. There's going to be plenty more episodes coming up that are going to be gear related. We'll do some reviews of some gear we use. And again, we're not sponsored. So everything that we say about any gear we use is truly our thoughts and our experiences, nothing curated by, someone who's paying us to say something. So yeah, give us a follow, give us a like, give us a rating on whatever streaming
Subscribe,
platform you're
share.
using. Yep. Every little bit helps. Tell your friends. And yeah, I think that covers it, Chris.
Cool.
Awesome.
Catch you
Thanks,
next time.
guys.